Hi, everyone. This is Casey Jenkins with the Montgomery Museum of Art and History. And today I wanted to give you all a director's report, the same report and presentation that I gave last week at the annual meeting. And I want to have the opportunity here to update all of our museum members about the very exciting things that have transpired in the past year. We've really had a banner of a year, and what to expect next as we go into the rest of this year, through the holidays, and into next year as well. So I'm going to take you through a director's report for all of our members. Thank you all for watching this. And thank you for all of your support and friendship to this museum, this growing institution here. We could not do this without you guys as awesome museum members as well. So I'm going to share my screen. If you give me one moment. All right. Okay, I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint presentation here. Here we go. All right, so as I said, we had our annual meeting last week, October 26th. Thank you for all those that were able to attend that meeting. And for those that couldn't, we really appreciate you sending in your proxies as well, because that meeting, in addition to the director's report, also was an opportunity to elect our new board members who will come on and serve for the 2023 calendar year as well. And we'll get all into that. So as you can see here, this is what that looked like. We sat in the main lobby of the museum, and I gave my director's report at that time. It was a great opportunity for people to look at the traveling exhibit from the Virginia Museum of History and Culture, as well as our regular art and history exhibits. So for those that did come out, thank you very, very much. And for those that couldn't but submitted your proxies, we also greatly appreciate that as well. So, and that kind of leads us right into starting with our board election and our officers. First and foremost, we want to thank our current board chair, Ernie Wade, who has been involved with the museum for many, many years and will remain on the board. He will be rotating off as the board chair at the end of this year. He has just done an amazing job leading this organization for many years. His tremendous leadership is really benefited the museum tenfold, and we're just extremely grateful for his presence and his leadership here at the museum. And so he got a nice standing ovation last week, well deserved as well. He has just been a real gem to have here at the museum, and a lot of mentorship to me as well, and just a fantastic guy. And I'm so glad that he'll be sticking around on the board as well. So actually, as we move into 2023, taking his place as the new board chair will be our current vice chair. That's Dr. Jean Haskell. She'll be the new board chair next year. The new vice chair will be Bob Lewitt. The treasurer is Mark Cox, and the secretary is Judy Diggs. We also want to thank those who are rotating off the board, which include Shirley Halleck, Kim Herrick, Rebecca Novi, and Chris Tuck. For all of their contributions and their time as well. And with that said, we have this fantastic board that we currently have here. And I also want to introduce you to who we are bringing on as we move into 2023 to make a great board turn into an exceptional board with these new additions as well. And so those members here, they include Dr. Sharon Scott on the left there. She was the previous she was the previous executive director and CEO of the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce, and just a fantastic community leader for Montgomery County, Blacksburg, and Christiansburg, and continues to do so. Next there is Leo Pretty. He also formerly worked with the chamber as the vice president, and he's now with the Small Business Development Center out in Roanoke, and he serves actually as the NRV business development advisor. So he's still nice and local here, and a very good friend of ours. In the middle there is Jody Daniels, retired from Virginia Tech within soils. And she has really taken on this huge role here at the museum, helping with collections. She is a historian as well, and is very involved with our museum currently with the collections committee and in our exhibit preparations. So she's just fantastic. Next there is James Cabler. He is the current vice president and community bank officer for Carter Bank and Trust. A fantastic, reputable financial institution here in the NRV and beyond. And we're very excited to have him on board as well. And then last on that list on the right is Linda Carell. She had a former career at Virginia Tech as well in laboratory sciences, in laboratory management, and she's a current artist with the BRAA, the Blacksburg Regional Art Association, and brings a lot of value to the table in her perspective as an artist as well for our museum. So we're, as I said, we're bringing we have a fantastic board, and if you could believe it, it actually will be elevated even more so with these 5 individuals right here as well. So, community impact is always at the forefront of what we do. We are a community driver here at the museum, and we do that through some guiding principles, one of which we kind of devised recently here. Under the umbrella of preserving history and presenting art, the museum is dedicated to collecting, preserving, and interpreting the history of Montgomery County, Virginia, and the region, as well as promoting art by regional artists. And so our cultural programming, whether that's history or art related or both, really what we're doing at the forefront, what's always at the forefront of our minds is to drive community conversations and have this community engagement with the people around us. And we facilitate and foster that through what we do here at the museum. So, and that's what gets us out of bed every morning. We're just extremely excited to be working at this growing institution here and to serve you all. This is your county museum, and to serve Montgomery County in many respects, the NRV, with what we can have in the way of our services and resources here at the museum. So we have come a long way to get to this point as well. The 2 photos you see here, the one on the right is our old location, sort of where the museum was born out of in the 80s, which is the historic manse on Pepper Street. And that's actually the grand opening when the museum occurred, or with the museum in the 80s. And then on the left, of course, is the Bank of Christiansburg, and that's a photo from 1973, which is where we are now. Now, we've moved from 2,600 square feet to 15,000. So we have a lot more room to play with, a lot more space to operate in. This really shows this growth that we have here, this move we just took on this past year, and what we can do in this new building, that this new space as a catalyst for community development and growth here in the region, and how our museum can be an anchor for that in Montgomery County and the NRV as well. So I want to kind of just take you through a brief timeline of some of the highlights from this past year alone. Shortly after we purchased the building, which was the end of February 2022, the next month in March, we partnered with Christiansburg Institute to develop and erect 3 storyboards in the town square right in front of our building. And those 3 storyboards speak to African-American history and culture here in Montgomery County, specifically community life, slavery, and education, and to do so in a very visible public space, and to make sure that all stories are being told, all voices are being elevated. And so this was a ceremony, an unveiling of these storyboards, and the community really came out in great numbers to support Christiansburg Institute and the Montgomery Museum. This was really actually 4 years in the making to get to this point. And we are just extremely happy that we were able to put this together on a beautiful day this past March. We had over 100 people show up, and it was just incredible and really spectacular to see something extremely important, be highlighted and celebrated in the way that we were able to do that here, right outside our front doors on the town square, the quadrant right next to the post office. And so this shows you just kind of the scope that day of all the great supporters and community members that came out to make this possible and to support these 2 organizations in putting this together. So we were extremely excited by that. And then as we move through into the spring, we took an old event and sort of reimagined it, an old event called Hearts on Main, and reimagined it as Arts NRV Market and Fashion Show. We've never done a fashion show before. That was an interesting idea, one that I learned a lot in that process. But really, this event was to showcase the regional artists that we have in Montgomery County and the NRV and even the Roanoke Valley, and to bring them all under one roof. This was at the German Club in Blacksburg, to showcase their talents. And then we coupled that with a fashion show worked with a local business out of Shawsville to put together, different forms of art basically on display, including the clothing that people were wearing and all the different mediums that were out there. And this was a great event. We're going to turn this into an annual event in some variation as we go forward as well. So keep an eye out on this as we move forward. Now, the next event we had after that, this was a huge success as a first-time event. Anyone who knows Jack Henshelwood, a Montgomery County native, knows that this was going to be a great event. So we partnered with Jack, who he's got a real heart for the museum and what we're doing here, promoting local music, mountain music, blues and bluegrass that we put together. And he assembled a team of about 10 other artists and musicians to just throw down on the Moss Art Center stage. It was an incredible evening in early April that was put together. And it was really exciting to see all these artists come together under one roof to celebrate and have some fun with mountain music. This was just an incredible event. We filled the auditorium at the Moss Art Center, and this too will be an annual event as we go forward. And a huge credit to Jack for making this possible. A great fundraiser for the museum in our ability to celebrate, again, mountain music and a different form of arts that we see here in Montgomery County and in the mountains of Appalachia and the NRV. So just a lot of fun, and looking forward to doing it again next year. All right, so one of my personal favorite events that we did was actually when we first opened our new building here on the town square on June 20th. That was our first day. It was our soft opening. It was also celebrating Give Local NRV. So we started the day with a ribbon cutting in the morning by the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce, which is, you see the group assembled here in front of you. That was for the ribbon cutting that we did first thing. And then we just ran through a full day of festivities from there. And again, not only our grand reopening, we also, again, celebrated Give Local NRV, which was run by the Community Foundation. And that was a campaign that started on June 1 through June 20 and ended on the day that we opened on June 20 there. And in those 3 weeks, as we sort of garnered attention and raised awareness to what we were doing, we were able to raise over $38,000 under Give Local NRV, which actually put us as the #3 organization in terms of fundraising of 105 participating organizations across the NRV. And it was really, the huge success was coupling Give Local NRV with our soft opening that we had at our new location this past June. And it was just an incredible day. The community really rallied around us and came out to support us. And it was just a wonderful thing to see. And you just see a lot of smiles there. And we haven't looked back since. We've hit the ground running ever since we opened our doors in the new building. And so not long after that, one of the other organizations we partnered with was the local chapter of the NAACP, the Montgomery Floyd Radford branch of the NAACP, to make Black history more accessible. And what I mean by that, much like what we did with the storyboard projects that are out on display in the town square, the local chapter of the NAACP basically solicited book donations to be brought to the Montgomery Museum and to be put out on display in our library and archives for people to access day in and day out, and to make the Black experience and Black history more accessible to the general public in the way of the literature that we can house in our new library, which sits behind the teller space in the main lobby. And so what we did was we celebrated this with an event. On the left there, you see Debbie Travis, the president of the local chapter of the NAACP, and myself giving a presentation about the importance of sharing this literature with everybody, and really just had a fantastic time. People really came out in numbers to see this. And again, this is what we stand for here, as a museum, to elevate all experiences, all stories, and all narratives and bring them into the fold, because it's all part of our history here of Montgomery County. And so this was just one incredible way in which we could do that. And as I said, there on the left, you see Miss Debbie Travis, the president of the local chapter there, and just a huge credit and thanks to them for allowing us, trusting us to be a partner in this process. So then we move through the summer, getting into August, late summer. And of course, one of our staples is Heritage Day. Many of you probably are aware of that. We close down East Main Street in downtown Christiansburg, as you see here, and we showcase heritage vendors, arts and crafts. This year, we introduced new live music, including the Jared Stout Band, and we had a beer garden, which we debuted a new heritage history beer in partnership with Iron Tree, which was very cool as well. So we brought in some new dynamics into the fold with this event. But actually, the most incredible thing about this event was just how family friendly and children friendly it was. We still also activated and used our space, our old space up on Pepper Street that we still retain and own. The gardens were in great use by master gardeners and master naturalists. We had a petting zoo up there. And the really cool part, as we have for a couple of years, we had a hay wagon that would take you up the hill on Pepper Street from downtown to and from our old location. And of course, the kids love that, which is amazing. So we bring that back every year. But so many over 25 children's activities, and just a really fun day for everybody of all ages to come out and celebrate the history and heritage and culture that we have right here in Montgomery County. And we got a really good, beautiful day. It was just a lot of fun, and a staple we've had for many years, and we'll bring back, of course, every year, a nice community event that we'll see in August. So as we continue through, I mentioned earlier we had our soft opening in June, and that's because our grand reopening was planned for October 1. We had about a month ago now. That was actually the aftermath of Hurricane Ian, so the weather was not great, but we still had over 100 people come out to the museum to see what was on display. And this was the first glimpse for people to see some of the new exhibits that we had on display, including the traveling exhibit from the Virginia Museum of History and Culture called Agents of Change, which is on display right now, soon to be headed back to Richmond. But this exhibit explored fantastic female figures, historical female figures from women's suffrage through present day, and honoring some of those women of the Commonwealth for their achievements in being agents of change. And so we actually took that one step further, and we developed, Sherry White, our curator, developed a local exhibit on women in Montgomery County making a big difference, and paralleling the local history with the state history, all about honoring those leading women figures and their ability to do a lot of good in our community, both locally here in Montgomery County, but also on the state stage as well. So we were extremely excited to bring out both of those two exhibits. Our vault, our main lobby vault, which people love, it's quite a spectacle in of itself. That was brought out and put out on display such that we were able to open that up for the first time and showcase just a sliver of the special collections that we have in the way of art that's still being placed in the vault right now. And that will get changed out as we go forward, but we were very excited to have that out on display as well. And so we had some great programming pieces throughout the day, a ceremonial cake cutting, children's activities, story time with Joelle. We had live music and a happy hour. And so it was just a really good opportunity to showcase, what we can do in our new space as we're moving forward here. So that was just a lot of fun. Now, one of the other things I wanted to share with you is, kind of as we recap this year, one of the things I put together was a year-over-year budget analysis, a very brief overview here, which I think is actually really telling about the direction we're headed right now. So I'm just going to speak to this very briefly here, but what you're seeing in 2021, we put together a budget that actually showed a deficit or a loss of roughly 7.3%. And where we ended up at the end of last year actually was between 0 and 1% to the good. So we actually made up a lot of ground there, as you can see, coming out far better than we had anticipated at the end of 2021, given those annual operating numbers. And in 2022, we said I think we're gonna break even here and have a well-balanced budget, as you can see there in 2022. But what's also really exciting is year to date here at the end of October, we're actually in the green as pure profit over $13,000. And it really shows you, again, you can look at these numbers here to show you how we have really progressed in a fantastic way with the financial growth and solvency of our organization as we go forward, and that money being reinvested and put back into our operations, our staff, and to our programs that we do. But really, more than anything else about this picture, what I want to communicate is the growth that we have seen just over the last 2 years, from 2021 and where we're headed in 2023. So what's really interesting, right now we're putting together our annual operating budget to be voted on here in November for next year, and we think that's roughly going to be around $240,000. Well, again, if you think about where we started in 2021, we're seeing a roughly 152% increase, or in other words, roughly $145,000 that has been increased over 2 years. So we are seeing exponential growth as we move through this process, and this building has a lot to do with that, obviously, both on the income and the expense side. But we really are. We say we're a museum growing with our community, and these numbers in and of themselves speak to that as well. So that's really, really interesting. Now, another way in which we can, an indicator as to, our growth is to ask the question, well, who are we made up of? Who is our constituents, our museum members in this case? And when I took the job here, it was heavily skewed toward Christiansburg. And we really wanted that to be more well-balanced. As a county museum, our purview needs to be equal to of Blacksburg, Christiansburg, and then the surrounding areas of the county as well. So Blacksburg in particular was a target to make sure that it was much more on an even playing field with Christiansburg in terms of our resources, our services, and who we were reaching out to in the way of membership. And I'm really pleased to tell you that, year to date, looking at the end of October here, you can see Blacksburg membership makes up about 39%. Christiansburg is 38%. So that we've really come to a great spot in which we can call ourselves even Stevens. And we would like that to be the case as we go forward and be well represented across the county here in terms of what we do, again, as your county museum. So Blacksburg, no doubt, in the past year has been the fastest growing membership. And that was with some, intention and strategy to that. And now we're at a point where we want to maintain both levels and increase those as we go forward. But we're very pleased with our efforts on that so far. Another great way to show our growth too, outside of our membership and outside of the finances themselves is, who are we made up of in the way of our volunteers, and who comes through our doors to come visit us? Well, one of the things that's really incredible is this is the volunteer hours you see here, 40 plus volunteers. We basically looked at our metrics from January to September. So just about 2/3 of the year this year. And we've already seen over 40 plus volunteers give over 2,400 hours in those months alone, which is just incredible. Again, the volunteers here are the backbone of our institution. And the reason we are successful more than anything else is because of the in-kind services that are provided by people giving their time and their efforts and their level of care and friendship to this growing organization. And for that, we are extremely grateful about who we are made up of in the way of volunteers. And our volunteers, docents and those kind of folks, they make the visitor experience and the guest engagement experience, that they bring that level of enhancement as we go forward as well. And so one of the other things that's interesting is our visitor numbers from 2021 and 2022. And so in 2021 on Pepper Street, we had a little over 1,300 visitors come through. Now that was a COVID year still as well, so you have to kind of think of that with a grain of salt there a bit. But what's also amazing is in 2022, we're already well above 3,300 visitors for the year. And we were closed 2 months, if you recall, in mostly May and June, moving our space, our operations from Pepper Street here to downtown Christiansburg. So in spite of that, we still had over 3,300 visitors come through. And that number obviously continues to increase as we come through the fall and into the winter season here as well. So, these are really great indicators of the success that we're having. We want to maintain the success and move forward with it and grow reasonably and be that cultural destination for residents here in Montgomery County, the NRV, and of course, many tourists that will come to this market in this area from outside the bounds of Montgomery County and the NRV as well. So we're really proud, though, of these numbers. You know, like any nonprofit, any museum, and especially any nonprofit, you know, community partnerships and collaboration go a long way. And we are very, very pleased at the plethora of organizations that we partner with. This is not an exhaustive list by any means. Really, just it kind of, as I was writing them down, it was just, wow, this list just keeps going and going. You know, but some of those organizations that we have partnered with just in the past year alone include Christiansburg Institute, the NAACP, as I mentioned earlier, 100 Plus Women Who Care, Friends of the Huckleberry, United Way of the NRV, Downtown Christiansburg, Inc., our cultural institutions in Blacksburg, including the Alexander Black House and Smithfield. The BRAA is a great friend of ours, and just so many more that are out there. You know, it's a rising tide raises all boats. When one of us does well as a nonprofit, we all do well in terms of giving back to our community and supporting our mission. So we're extremely grateful for the folks working at these organizations as well to make ourselves successful and to make them successful as we go forward. And that's what it's all about. And so just some of the accolades and awards that we have that have come our way recently. So the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce every year holds an annual meeting and dinner in early December in which they select a nominee from various categories. And this year we were very proud to be a nominee, to be nominated for the Small Nonprofit of the Year Award. Excuse me, and also the Nonprofit Leader of the Year Award. And so we will hear back on these nominations and applications in early December. But this really speaks to also, it's validating to show what we're doing here in terms of our work and how we're reaching out to our business community as much as we are everybody else. And so one of the other things that we have done, you know, and we hope this is the first of many dominoes to fall from a foundation standpoint. As I mentioned earlier, we are still in a capital campaign on the building, which I'll talk about more specifically in just a moment. But you know, one of the things that occurred just this past fall in September, we were awarded a gift of $40,000 from the Patterson Foundation, more specifically the Helen S. and Charles G. Patterson Jr. Charitable Foundation and Trust, which is managed by Truist. You know, they saw what we were doing here and taking on this new project in this new building, and we were very, very, very excited and honored to receive a gift of $40,000 from the review committee of that board. And that really speaks volumes to what we're doing here at the building. And again, hopefully that first domino to fall from a foundation standpoint as well. So what's next? You know, here we are. You can, you know, we're very excited about, again, it's been a banner of a year. But we don't want to rest on our laurels. You know, we want to be here and again, we want to live up to the expectations of being your county museum as we move forward. And so, you know, what do we have in the works here as we move toward the end of this year and into 2023? Well, I'm gonna talk to you about that. Just some really exciting stuff. You know, that momentum, we just keep riding that momentum, and we need to sustain that momentum as we go forward as well. So the first thing I'll talk about is where we are with the capital campaign, as I mentioned earlier. You know, we've raised roughly 1.1 million to date. There are some big ticket items that are out there that we will have to address sooner rather than later. That includes an overhaul on our HVAC system. The building was built in the 60s, and many parts sort of still reflect the 60s, if you will, an antiquated system that we're working on as we go forward. But that will be a pricey six-figure ticket if we were to do an overhaul of the whole system. And of course, as we mentioned before to many of you, an elevator is going to be key to activate and maximize the full 15,000 square feet of the building here. And we think that will roughly be about $250,000 to add an elevator to our building. So, you know, those are all things that we are working toward as well. We've been very successful in the past year to be at the number that we're at, and we hope to continue that success as we go forward here as well. All right, so a couple things coming up this month. One very, very shortly here, November 3rd at 5 o'clock. Photographer Tim Lawson will be presenting his work called Right Side Photography. He's an amazing photographer. He goes out and around the country and travels and just finds the best shot that you can imagine. And he does that. He does it very, very well. And so we are very pleased to put together a meet and greet with the artist and a reception. And his show will kick off here, all of that on November 3rd from 5 to 7. So we hope to see you for some hors d'oeuvres and some drinks and meet the artist and check out his new photography exhibit, which is just amazing. Now we don't normally do two art exhibits and shows in the same month, but this is an exception to that, where we will actually have Larry Bechtel, who is a nationally known sculptor, lives in this region here. He just has some amazing pieces, some inspired by history as well, at that intersection of art and history. And he will be showing his work here starting on November 17th with an art reception and meet and greet with the artist. Same deal with nice hors d'oeuvres, food, and beverages for folks to come in and look at his work. And we're also very excited to be able to host him, and his show will also go through the end of the year here. So we're extremely excited for both of these artists to take center stage, if you will, in our main lobby area. So make sure you mark your calendar for those two events. And as we roll into the holidays and into December, our quarterly membership mingles, our next one will be scheduled the very first day of December from 5 to 7 at the museum. The museum will be decorated in holiday decor by that point. In fact, we're getting our gift shop ready right now with holiday-related items and merchandise, because Christmas starts the day after Halloween, so I've been told. So all of that is in place and being worked on as we speak, and we'll have a holiday membership mingle that we'll have at the museum on December 1 from 5 to 7 p.m. And of course, our annual book sale, a real favorite. Many people ask about it every year. We're bringing that back on December 9th and 10th, December 9th from 2 to 8 p.m. and December 10th from 10 to 4 p.m. Actually, the photo you see here was just taken last week. Our book vault in the basement, thanks to some great volunteers, has completely been organized to be ready for that book sale. We have just a ton of books. And the first day that we'll do this on December 9th is also the Christmas parade and holiday market. So a good reason to get to downtown Christiansburg for a lot of reasons, and hopefully patron us here at the museum as well, and support us through the book drive and the book sale that we'll have. It's all used books, but just some fantastic things I flipped through myself in that room. All right, so this might be my favorite slide of all, actually, because it says, it's kind of big picture. Well, what else are you guys going to do as you go forward? Again, we don't want to rest on our laurels. We want to keep our momentum going. And we have some very cool ideas that are in the works right now to come to fruition in the near future, listed right here as we look toward the end of this year and into 2023. The first is this idea, somewhat of a novel concept, as far as I understand, of coupling art therapy, mental health rather, in the same space as museums. And so taking these two topics and sort of thinking about mental health while in the space of a museum, and the benefit that it provides. So anytime you go into any museum, I think I would say that's good for your mental health. But more specifically, we actually have partnered with a art therapist who works at Carillion in Roanoke. And we are putting together a series of programs that'll run December through March to basically utilize the museum's resources and exhibits, our history and our art exhibits, to conduct these programs. This is not group therapy by any means, but it is sort of the idea being, get out of your house in the winter here and come to the museum, and really, we challenge you to think about some of the issues that you might have. Everyone has things going on in their head, and how that we can sort of unlock and unpack some of those things from the standpoint of what we can offer here in our museum. And so again, not a group therapy session, but we will be working with a licensed professional to do so from Carillion. And we're really excited to put these two things in the same space. And most importantly, also to bring awareness, to raise awareness to mental health and, where the access to mental health is within our community here of the NRV. In this area, Montgomery County and the NRV. So if nothing else, we want to bring attention to that and sort of, again, couple these two spaces together. So much more information to come on this, but a really exciting collaborative project that you'll see more as we get through this month and into December. And now another event that will be upcoming, I mentioned the state's exhibit on Women of the Commonwealth and Agents of Change, and then what we did locally to celebrate Montgomery County women of notable figures here, historically speaking. We want to take that another step further. And actually, we are going to partner with 100 Plus Women Who Care to put together a nominating process so that we can celebrate and recognize and highlight current leading women of Montgomery County in many respects, in many fields, including artistic creativity, women empowering women, business leaders of the world. There's about 5 or 6 categories that we're going to solicit for, and 100 Plus Women Who Care will help adjudicate those nominations as they come in, and we will celebrate that. And that event sort of pays tribute and will run in parallel with the history exhibit that we have about local women of Montgomery County. So we're really excited to take that one step further, and we'll have more information about that as we go forward. But keep yourself thinking about some women that you know of who are just doing some fantastic work here in Montgomery County, and how we can celebrate their work and recognize and honor the work that they do day in and day out here in Blacksburg, Christiansburg, and the surrounding area. So we're excited by that. Another thing, actually, as I speak, we are having renovations done to our basement. We want a shout out to Lowe's Christiansburg, right here in Christiansburg. We were selected as the nonprofit this year to do renovations done as in-kind services. Their employees get paid, but it's all done as in-kind services to us, and it's part of their community service program that they have for their employees. And so they are actually, as we speak, in the basement, laying down new flooring and doing a paint job on the whole basement. So again, we can really activate that space for meeting space, exhibit space, the whole 9 yards that we'll have in place. That work started today and will run through the rest of this week. And then we will have that available to the public as well. So we're extremely excited about the transformation that's taking place in the basement right now to become public space. And again, a huge shout out to Lowe's right here in Christiansburg for their efforts and their dedication in supporting us as a nonprofit and giving back to their community. One of the other things that will happen next year that is in the works right now, the museum, we want to engage all audiences 0 to 99, right? There's a real target and interest to get more young people involved as well. And one of the things that we are going to do is develop an emerging leaders board of directors, sort of a subunit of the main board of directors that I spoke of earlier. And to work with these folks, for them to get some professional development, but also to give back to the museum, learn more about what we're doing, and for us to learn how we then, people of that audience, 20 to 35, how can we engage those folks more, and work and looking toward these leaders on this young board to help us with that, basically. So it's a real win-win, and I'm excited to work with them. Leo Pretty, who is one of our new board members I mentioned earlier, will be the board liaison to this group as well moving forward. And we're really excited about what this potential can be in terms of putting together the best foot forward for both the museum, but having that mutual benefit to our organization and to getting more young people involved as well. So we're excited by what that will become, and we will be looking to build that structure for next year as well. Now, as I said, we, again, grow institution here, and we need to grow proportionally, and that includes our organizational capacity, our internal bandwidth. So we are very excited that soon we will be putting a call out and hiring for an events and marketing coordinator and a guest services associate. So the events and marketing coordinator, just as it sounds, they're going to help a lot with social media and the event planning pieces of all the fundraisers that we know will have year in and year out. And that will be a tremendous help to our current staff. And then our guest services associate is someone who will primarily work on weekends and evening hours, after hours, to help staff the front desk and make sure the facility is in good shape as well, and be there from that hospitality standpoint too, as many of our docents currently do, but to put that accountability on another staff member as well, to up our game in terms of our visitor engagement and our guest experience. So again, this was the presentation I gave at the annual meeting last week. I certainly invite any questions, if you guys have any, to email back to me or come see me in person. But you know, the point I want to hammer in really is twofold. Number one, we are so grateful and appreciative of all the work and efforts by you guys, the members, to make this your county museum and turn this into what you want to see. And it gets us out of bed every day, and we just love it. I mean, we really just love what we do. I know I speak for all of staff and the volunteers that we have on the board level and everywhere else. It's just a tremendous organization to be a part of. I couldn't ask for anything better myself. I'm very grateful to you all in your support and your involvement as members of this growing institution. And that's the second piece is it's a growing institution here, and we want to fill that gap. We want to fill that gap in Montgomery County NRV as a premier cultural destination for people around this area, and offer something for everybody as we go through here. And so that's what we're here for. If you have any questions, I'll stop my share here. If you have any questions at any point, you just let me know. But I just, again, on behalf of the board and staff, thank you very much for everything that you do for us as museum members. And I look forward to talking with you guys soon. And again, thank you very, very much. I hope you have a great day.